Hello there. I've come across the most wonderful pivot, don't panic story, courtesy of MIT Technology Review. And it doesn't involve a company. In fact, it involves an entire industry, in this case, rural agriculture, small farmers. It happened in China, but it doesn't matter because no matter what industry you're in, or no matter where you are in the world, the story contains business lessons that are relevant to us all. And of course, China itself as a country has pivoted from being what used to be the copycat nation to being one of the great innovators of the world. So let's start with our story about farmers. If you travel in China, you'll see farmers like this all over the place, living in these plastic hothouses and producing their goods. But the trouble is that small farmers, be it in China or in fact anywhere in the world, tend to be cut off from their marketplace. They sell their goods to big national distributors who in turn transport them and on-sell them to retailers who in turn sell them to the end customers. Now that was fine in the old world. But along came COVID-19 and suddenly in China and around the world, supply chains started to collapse. And suddenly farmers weren't able to access their markets. And farmers found themselves having to throw out rotting piles of flowers, of fruit and vegetables, unable to access their markets and thus facing financial ruin. But luckily, two companies, e-commerce companies, were able to pivot very, very quickly. Because they were e-commerce companies, they understood the nature of the market, and very, very quickly, they understood that live streaming was a major trend that was shaping retail markets in China. So these two companies, JD.com and Alibaba's Taobao, very quickly launched simple, intuitive live streaming apps for rural farmers, enabling these farmers to talk directly to end consumers and thus deliver. Luckily, these companies, being e-commerce companies, still had distribution and logistics networks in place, so they were able to take produce directly from the farm to end consumers. So here you see, I'll get out of the face so you can see her face. Here you see a flower producer, and she's actually using her mobile phone to tell people how to arrange her flowers and how, in fact, to make sure that they stay fresh. Here's a different picture. You see this lady who produces fruit, telling people how to make all sorts of concoctions using her fruit. And this farmer is taking her customers on a virtual tour of her pineapple fields. A completely different way to reach to the marketplace. So the question is, did it work? Well, Taobao alone now has 50,000, yes, 50,000 rural live streamers who are talking directly to their end customers. And they're aiming at having more than 200,000 online by the end of the year. Farmers who previously were selling 90% of their goods offline have pivoted to sell 90% of their goods online. And in the process, they have cut expensive middlemen out of their supply chain. So what are the three lessons that we can take away from this? Well, number one, embrace technology. In particular, embrace e-commerce. It is the shape of the new marketplace. Don't think that you're too small or too old to participate in this new space. Number two, if you're a middleman, panic. Disintermediation is a tidal wave and it's coming for you. Number three, even in these dark days, the customers are still there, but we have to change our behavior and how we reach and how we communicate with those customers. Isn't that a wonderful pivot, don't panic story? Unless, of course, you're a middleman, in which case you better panic. So ask yourself, how do these three lessons apply to your business? Thank you for listening.